I guess intimacy for me is a sense of closeness and allows us to get a better sense of each other and each other's needs and how like those needs can be met within the relationship itself. What do you think are some of the common barriers that people experience in terms of just being able to have quite fulfilling and pleasurable sexual lives?
I don't think you can be intimate without being vulnerable. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, I
You agree,
100%.
right? Yeah.
Okay, so what helps you defrost? Like, how can I get you there where you are fully melted and liquid? Would you regard yourself as being a dominant person within the bedroom?
Juicy stuff.
The juicy stuff.
The tea.
We're gonna spill all of it. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Bomiga Zilupindo. I am a clinical psychologist. I'm also a PhD student at the University of Oxford. And we have our gorgeous guest returning again. Part two of our discussions. Do you mind just introducing yourself again so people who might have not watched the previous video, if you haven't, guys,
but you need to watch it, come on,
please make sure that you go back.
Yes, thank you so much, Mommy, for having me here again. Hi everyone, my name is Nira Budiono, but people usually call me Nira. I'm originally from Indonesia and I have been an online sex educator for 6 to 7 years. I started a platform back in my home country, Indonesia, to provide young people with stigma-free, evidence-based, and comprehensive sexuality education. And since then, I've kind of been in this kind of global health field, working to improve young people's sexual and reproductive health and rights. And then I just recently finished an international health tropical medicine degree from the University of Oxford, which is where I met our lovely host, Bomi. So yeah, happy to be here again.
So thank you so much for that lovely introduction. So we are going to speak about something really juicy. I feel like I need to sit back and relax.
Relax. Okay.
And just
kind of like, okay.
Yeah, that's true. So we have been doing a relationship series, right?
I love that.
Yeah. So we've been talking about love, sex, and partnerships.
Nice.
And sex is really coming, my darling. And I actually just wondered, like, what are your how do you feel and what do you think the role of sex is in terms of improving the quality and I guess overall satisfaction that people have within relationships?
I think in terms of sex, like it or not, basically sex is a big part of many people's lives. I'm not saying everybody, but like many people value sex and just basically it's a source of pleasure, right? Yeah. That's how it should be. Sex should be a source of pleasure and kind of fun and exploration in your life. And that's an amazing experience to have with a partner because obviously with a partner who you share, you know, an emotional connection with, you share your life with, that's just another kind of layer to add to your relationship, kind of like how you explore each other's bodies, explore each other's preferences, desires, and kind of having fun with each other because it should be fun, it should be pleasurable, it should be exciting, not all the time, but I mean it doesn't have to be exciting all of the time, but it should be pleasurable. That's what I'm saying. So I think it just adds like this very interesting additional layer to your intimacy, and you can be emotionally intimate, you can be intellectually intimate, but you can also be sexually intimate with your partner. And I think it's also a great way to kind of just like learn more about each other and kind of discover more and more things about your partner, because I think in relationships when you have like sexual intimacy you do kind of learn new things about each other, like, oh, you like this, oh, I like that, so it's kind of like a great bonding experience that also increases your emotion, like your intimacy and connection when you're doing it right and when you're doing it when you're respectful about each other's boundaries, etc. So I think it could be like a really powerful and fun and interesting layer to your relationship.
And I actually wondered, what does intimacy mean for you?
Okay. These are deep questions.
Sorry.
You're not
I am so sorry, but
that's how we do it here. Okay, what does intimacy mean to you first?
No! Wait, I'm the one that actually is moderating this discussion, okay? We can't have it the other way around.
Okay.
But I'm also happy to answer that question.
Okay. Do you want to go first?
Sure. I mean, I don't mind going first. So I think intimacy is very different for different people.
Yeah.
And it means different things for different people. And for me, intimacy is a sense of closeness, right?
Yeah.
And that sense of closeness could literally mean proximity. It could literally mean like an emotional kind of connection.
Yeah.
It could literally also mean more like an intellectual kind of connection. So for me, that's what intimacy means, like ways in which we find a way to connect with each other.
Yes.
And this could be through like the conversations that we have. It could be spending time together and literally like spending time in each other's presence without necessarily even having to speak or engage in any kind of way. So I guess intimacy for me is a sense of closeness that makes us and creates a sense of safety for both of us and allows us to get a better sense of each other and each other's needs and how like those needs can be met within the relationship itself and within the partnership that we have.
Yeah. Beautifully said, Bonnie. So I just echo everything. No, I'm just kidding. But yes, I totally agree with everything. But I think just to add from my side is also kind of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you can be intimate without being vulnerable. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, I
you
100%.
Right? Yeah. Because if you're not vulnerable and you're not really showing, your real self, then it's kind of like there's that layer of additional barrier that you're putting between you and your partner. So I feel like, completely agree with you. Closeness, safe space, and vulnerability is what I would say is like being intimate with somebody. Yeah.
And I know we're taking a bit of a detour, but I also wondered, like, how do you feel about vulnerability? Do you feel like you're able to be vulnerable within your own personal relationships? And what might have been both experiences that caused you to want to kind of move away from vulnerability and intimacy versus experiences that made you want to move more towards it that you've had that feel okay to share in this space?
Yeah, I think having kind of vulnerability and intimacy first with me started with just having a really good sense of self-awareness of who I am as a person, what my values are, what my strengths and weaknesses are, what I think is important, what my beliefs are. So starting with that, I think is really, really important. And then also realizing that I can be kind of my own unique person and I don't have to kind of follow what other people are saying or doing. It has to come from that place where you're like, you feel comfortable with yourself, you know yourself, then only then can you kind of open up to other people in an authentic way, I think. I think what kind of, made me move towards more intimacy and like vulnerability is just having a very good like social support network. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a partner. It could also definitely be a partner, but just having people around you who you feel safe with and who you can kind of just be honest with about what you're going through. I think that really helped me, be more comfortable with being vulnerable. And that can be difficult to have or to find, I think, for some people, especially if you're like moving to a different place or you're just, you're in a new, beginning or whatever. But finding your community and finding your people who you can be yourself with, then it's like a really good start to.
I completely agree. I think having those safe spaces really do kind of extend to other relationships as well and make it a lot more easier to show up as yourself within those spaces. So I also just wondered, what do you think are some of the common barriers that people experience in terms of just being able to have quite fulfilling and pleasurable sexual lives and sexual experiences within their relationships?
Oh, there's I feel like there's so many barriers and layers to people not, being satisfied with their sexual life. I think a lot of it has to do with not having good self-awareness or not having enough of self-awareness to kind of what do you want versus what other people say that you should want. That's definitely number one, which I already talked about earlier. And then also people also have like you said, I think everybody views intimacy in a different way.
Yeah.
And some of those ways of viewing intimacy and sex are not necessarily compatible. Like there can be mismatched beliefs or values, or libido or like sexual energy. Maybe one partner that like wants more sex than the other, so there could be a mismatch of those values and beliefs. But that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. And then it comes to the third one, which is like communication and not having good communication around these values and beliefs and what you can compromise with each other. So I think all of those things kind of combine usually to make people just kind of have these unfulfilling sexual lives, and which is such a like it's an unfortunate thing, because you can actually try and fix it and try and like to be better at it. But yeah, these are some of like the common barriers.
That actually makes a lot of sense, and I feel like what you mentioned about like communication is a big thing. But the question is like, how do people actually communicate? Like, how do we communicate and express our needs within these relationships, and what can help facilitate those kinds of conversations with our partners?
So I think the first thing with like just kind of communication is like when you come to that space when you're communicating with your partner, it's really important to kind of come with the right attitude of that you're coming there to solve a problem together as a team, and you're coming also with an open attitude to kind of understand what their perspectives are, and a vulnerability to communicate what your true needs are and what your honest thoughts are. I think that's the first thing that needs to happen, is like you come in there with like the right intentions, because some people come to like just play the blame game. Do you know what I mean? Kind of like, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. And I think with sex especially, because it's like very sensitive, and people sometimes are still figuring out what they want. So it's really important to have that open, honest space with your partner. And kind of, I think I also see a lot of people kind of getting into these like conversations already having assumptions about what the other person is feeling. So we see a behavior, like a manifestation of behavior, and then we create our own story about why that occurred. Like for instance, our partner is not initiating sex as much as we want, and the story that we tell ourselves is like, they're not attracted to me anymore, or like they're seeing other people, or something like that. And then we come into the communication space kind of like with that in mind, and kind of like trying to prove that we're right. So instead of coming there and kind of like, okay, so this is what I am feeling. I don't know, like can we talk about it? What's really happening? How are you feeling? And what can we do about it? So I think that's really, really important. And I'm sure you as a clinical psychologist have worked on this with people so many times.
That's true. And it's so interesting that like oftentimes when breakdown within relationships happen, sex is a big part of it, and other stuff that happen within the relationship actually affects sex itself. So oftentimes 100%. When people they'll come and they'll speak about, oh, this one does this and this and that, and then eventually we, at some point after a long time, we get to the sex, which is the actual problem. That hey, this is coming up for us. I actually like what you said about like the intention behind that, because I find even within therapy, like it's quite difficult to have those kind of conversations, because they require so much vulnerability, and if you approach that conversation already with an intent to be like attacking towards the other person, or defensive in another way, or blaming them, or accusing them of various things. And I feel like even just having those kinds of conversations, there's so much compassion that needs to go into that, because we all have different sexual experiences, we all have like different comforts in doing certain sexual acts that people might feel like, oh, this is fine for me from like the get-go, whereas with other people, they literally need to defrost. Literally
defrost. I love that term.
They literally need to defrost, and you can't defrost unless like it's a space that feels warm and containing and safe enough for you to be able to like melt and then
melt
your true colors come out. You're just like, whoa, actually.
I will use that word for now. Thank you, Bowie.
You're welcome. So, Nira, I also wondered, what do you think, like, the role of, I mean, you mentioned something quite significant, like a sense of self-awareness, but what role does, like, a sense of self-awareness and your self-perception in relation to your body, what impact does that have in terms of your sexual experiences and the impact it has on, like, the overall, like, sexual satisfaction that you have within your relationship?
Yeah. No, that's a really important point, because, like, I think oftentimes when people talk about, you know, sex and having sex, it's like, oh, is your partner attracted to you? Are you attracted to your partner? Which obviously is important in sex. But it is also really important to ask yourself, like, how do you feel about your own body and your attractiveness? Do you feel that you are sexy? Do you feel that you're attractive? And that is a significant, you know, factor in these relationships and being intimate. If you don't have that kind of confidence or comfort with your own body, you're struggling to believe that your partner or other people can feel attracted to you, that it also really just kind of messes up with your mind, and you're then second guessing whether or not, you know, this is actually pleasurable for your partner, etc. So it's a huge impact, definitely. And for both women and men, obviously, and especially with, like, social media and beauty standards and body image and body standards, etc. It can really mess you up and mess some like experiences up, and it's something that a lot of people go through. They're not kind of, like, aware of it, and like how that is like affecting their relationships. So yeah, I would say that having that awareness about how you feel about your body, and then working on that and working to feel comfortable, working to feel good about yourself is also, like, one of the foundational steps to having good fulfilling sex life.
Yeah. And I know we touched on this at the beginning of our conversation, but what do you think, because what you're referring to is how we feel about ourselves, right?
Yes.
And also how we feel about the other person, and how that kind of comes into play in terms of, like, the sexual experiences that we have. What role do you think, like, emotional intimacy has in the actual deed itself?
Yeah. I feel like I talk about this a lot with my friends. Especially with, like, hookup culture, etc. Like, you know, like, one night stands, etc. So I think it's, like, very different for each person. Like, for some people, emotional intimacy is required for them to be able to be sexually intimate with somebody. Some people, it's kind of like, yeah, it's great if we have it, but it's not an issue if, you know, if we don't have it, it's fine. And I think, it comes back to, like, how do you view sex? And if you just see it as, like, it can just be a physical thing that you do for pleasure. It could be with basically anybody. Then it's like, then maybe the emotional intimacy part does not matter so much for you, especially with the context of relationships. And for people who it's important, like, emotional intimacy is important for, then it's, like, an extremely important, and, like, it can be a deciding factor in your sex life, I think. Because, again, when you don't feel emotionally connected and kind of safe within a relationship, then you also can't be vulnerable to kind of share your desires, your needs, your preferences. And it just, you know, you're not able to connect as much, even when you are, you know, doing sexual intercourse or whatever it is you're doing. And so I think it's, like, a lot of people say that, like, foreplay begins in, like, the kitchen or something. Like, in the living room or something.
That's true.
Because we do think that foreplay happens, like, when we're in the bedroom or whatever. But it actually begins, you know, wherever we are as a couple or as partners. If we're investing in each other, if we're, like, seeing each other, if we are listening to each other, then that definitely can add to, like, having that, like, intimate feeling. And so it does begin.
No, I completely agree with you. And I think something quite important that you mentioned is that it's quite important for people to actually understand what sex means for their partner and for them.
For their partner, exactly.
So in some instances, you might just think, oh, like, this is just a thing that we do for fun. Whereas for the other person, like, it's literally something that's quite sacred. It means, like, there's an importance of a sense of safety that's attached to that, and having those kinds of conversations are also quite important, because then exactly what you're saying, that hey, it's not just about like us coming in and doing the deed. It's about like actually having those conversations, like maintaining that sense of safety, that sense of connectedness, even beyond like the actual act itself. Those kind of conversations are literally important, and those are the things that can like make or break the actual relationship and the sexual experience itself, because that's the thing that also creates a sense of safety and a sense of freedom to explore in different ways in that space. So
it's all connected.
It's
all very much connected.
I completely agree. So I think this is actually an interesting one. So what do you think are some of the ways in which, or what can help facilitate like people breaking out of like that novelty in terms of like what they do in their sexual life and their sexual experiences? There was this joke that we used to make that like women tend to like being, so there's this store in South Africa, it's called Woolworths. It's like M&S here, and they like Woolies. They like selling this chicken, right? It's a full chicken, and it just sits there, and it's just it's just there. So they were just like, oh, like people tend to like, that's the kind of sex that they generally have. It's either men would like just come in and do whatever, and you just like have to lay there like a Woolies chicken.
Woolies chicken, no.
So how can like people of introduce a sense of novelty, and even not just like in terms of positions themselves, but even like where you have sex, how you have sex. How can we introduce a sense of novelty in terms of those sexual experiences?
That's a great question, especially because a lot of like long-term relationships, monogamous relationships, feel like their sexual desires with each other kind of like, change over time, and that's like completely normal, because when you're in the beginning, it's like exciting, novelty, like new relationship energy, things like that, right? But I think it's about like having this sense with your partner of like curiosity and exploration and trying something new and being a little kind of silly and fun and kind of like breaking out of your routine. You know what I mean? It can, like you said, it can be like different positions, but it could also be like different ways that you're coming into the act, like role playing, like sharing fantasy, if you have fantasies with each other, like sharing those and kind of exploring those, exploring like, for instance, the use of toys or other, external whatever, devices, as long as it's safe.
That's true.
So I think the sense of like breaking out of the routine, which I mean, sometimes maybe like because of life, like you can't always break out of your routine, but like having it from time to time, having it like a new place, going on like a staycation somewhere, or taking each other on a date and things like that, I think will really, really help that sense of like excitement and novelty. But this again comes to like you need to know like what each other's preferences, desires are, that you can build on, that you can play, you can have fun, you can be, you can explore, you can ask each other what each other wants and things like that. I think there's definitely many different things that you can do, but again, also understanding that sometimes it does come in waves, and so don't feel too stressed if you're feeling like, okay, this is kind of like the low times or whatever. Sometimes, I mean, it happens, as long as then you guys can like pick it up back again, and then you both are feeling good about it, you're kind of, you're still connected, things like that, I think it should be okay. And
I like the idea of curiosity. I think that's also a big thing for me, not just like in terms of like sexual exploration, but like curiosity in general as a person, because I feel like that kind of keeps the excitement and eroticism within the actual relationship itself, and those things become significantly important in the relationship.
Oh, sorry, one more thing that I actually learned, this was like really, really kind of mind-blowing for me as well, is this idea of like treating each other as sexual beings even outside of the sexual act itself. So kind of this, when you're in a new relationship, you're kind of, or like you're flirting, you're kind of complimenting each other. No, it's important to do that as well when you're in a long-term relationship, and still kind of flirting with each other, like teasing each other, even outside of, like having sex, so like in a day-to-day basis in the kitchen, whatever, in the bathroom. That's also important, and kind of can build your kind of tension and build your desire, and then you can have like a good experience.
Okay, sexy.
Okay.
I
see you. These are good tips.
No, they are like, guys, take out your pens.
Take out your pens.
There's loads more coming.
And review them. Tell us your experience after your...
Yeah, no, that's true. It would be nice. Like,
it would be good.
We need reviews.
Reviews.
Put your reviews down there.
Yeah.
And let us know. I think that actually could be helpful, like to hear from people in terms of like their own personal experiences and what they found to be helpful. I think that would be nice. An entire community of sex comments in our chat.
Let's go. How do you defrost?
How do you defrost? How do you defrost? Yeah, I think that's a nice question. Like, literally, when you get into a relationship, like, guys, literally asking, okay, so what helps you defrost? Like, how can I get you there where you are fully melted and liquid? Ooh, I see that.
Spicy.
Really spicy.
We love it.
Okay, let me see what our next question is. So, this is actually another important one. So, it is with regards to like, what role does trust play in actually having like these positive, pleasurable, satisfying sexual relationships within our relationships?
Yeah. I think trust is definitely kind of like the foundation of it, because trust is needed for you to be able to consent basically fully and to kind of like yes, I want to be part of the experience with you. If you don't have trust, then you can't feel assured that your partner will respect your consent, will respect your boundaries, will respect your needs, your desires. So I think if there's no trust there, it's really difficult. And I mean I've heard of stories as well of like, and like I've heard people experiencing, like having sexual intimacy with somebody they don't trust, and it's just it ends up being a very difficult experience for them, and honestly quite traumatic as well. And that is, I mean, we can also talk about like how people have so many like traumatic sexual experience because they don't have trust in each other, or they thought that this person is trustworthy but they're not. That also happens, right? But I think it is important to make sure that you are with a person that you trust, you have a degree of trust with, basically, and important, so that, I mean, you're also keeping that trust, keeping that space for other people, so that there's that experience.
I'm also thinking about like an actual article that I was asked to write for a newspaper, and they were speaking about stealthing. So stealthing is when someone actually removes a condom while you guys are having sex and you don't know until afterwards. And I mean, even just that kind of act, like having the confidence that something like that is not going to happen, where you consent to one thing and then things change without you like having knowing. Had that communication and knowing that. I think even beyond just like the sexual act itself, trust goes to a level where if I don't want to have sex, that you can trust that actually, we're still okay and the relationship is still fine, and it's not a matter of, oh, like something must be wrong, or maybe I'm not wanted in this relationship just because this person like didn't want to engage in this act with me in this very moment. So I think trust is quite a significant thing, like in any kind of sexual act. And again, it goes back to like that sense of safety that you feel when you're with someone, which plays such a massive role in terms of like how much you're able to open up yourself to certain experiences.
And that thing about removing condoms is literally assault, I think. It's like
it is. It
definitely is assault.
Yeah, it is.
That is not okay.
And I think people don't know and understand that. Which is something that's quite unfortunate, because a lot of people don't even report something like that, because that really is sexual assault.
That is 100%.
So actually the last question is, how would you advise people in terms of like when to know when to seek out help, when they are
That's a good
dissatisfied in terms of like their sexual experiences. Yeah, what advice would you give?
Yeah.
So how do I know when I need to seek out that help, and
great
what
question.
would be the best way to go about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I feel like, and I know that you as a psychologist will also know that a lot of people wait until they're like super in need of help or like really feel super down or super, not functioning well they wait until that to seek help. And what I just kind of want to tell you is that like, it's okay to like, it's perfectly valid to have just, concerns, and then wanting to seek help because of that, just to kind of, because you have concerns, and not necessarily have to wait until like everything is falling apart to then seek help. So yeah, that's the first thing. But I think definitely if you're having pain, when you are, in terms of like physical sensations, like symptoms, if you're having pain when you're, having sex, I think that should be a cause for concern. It could be a symptom of something. So definitely seek out like a health provider when that happens to you. And then also when you were feeling like very distressed, or you're feeling like you want to be able to do something but you can't. As if you're by yourself or with a partner, if there's something that you desire but you kind of like, for some reason you can't get to it. For example, you would like to have sex with your partner, but for instance you're not experiencing enough, you're not wet enough basically, like enough lubrication if you're a woman, if you if you're a woman, that could be something that you can seek help for. So basically, like if there's something that you were like, I want to do this but I'm not able to, I don't know why, then it definitely could be a valid reason to seek help. And I definitely encourage you to do that, because again, a lot of people have different assumptions and myths and everything, and so please just kind of like trust your healthcare provider, your providers, to kind of figure out what's going on, and that's the only way that you can kind of then move forward or find a solution. So but even if you're just kind of feeling, I don't even know, like sometimes I also see people like, I don't even know what's wrong, I just feel, I don't feel happy, but also I'm not super sad or something like that, but I just feel like there's something missing. I just feel like there's something like I can't put a finger on it. I think that's already something that you can go to a professional for. And so I think all these different things, if you're feeling in any way unsatisfied, you feel like you just want to ask a question, you feel like there's something you want to do but you can't, definitely seek out help.
And the whole notion of like people actually wait until a disaster happens before they actually come to therapy or seek out any kind of like medical help, I completely agree with that, guys. Like I always say, prevention is always better than cure. Like I'd rather like you go in there to prevent like a disaster from happening rather than like trying to scramble and pick up the pieces once the disaster has happened. So I have personal questions for you.
Oh wow. we always need to close out with a personal question.
Of course.
Okay. I see how it is.
It wouldn't actually be the best way to close without getting a bit of sauce from you.
So you're saving the best for last.
Yes,
basically.
we need the tea. So do you feel like your perception of sex has changed over time, and if it has, how so?
So it definitely has changed, and I think it continues to evolve, and like if that's the case, right, like we just kind of, we don't stop changing and we don't stop evolving. But I think having grown up in a very religious like household and also country, I think sex for me was like, it's literally like a husband and wife that like in that kind of relationship, to to feel connected to each other, but also to just kind of like have babies. So I think that really shaped a lot of my experiences growing up as well. And I kind of, the worst part was that I expected other people to also have the same view on sex. And that was I think that was the bad part, because having that belief about sex is not wrong. Like that's, that's your right to have that belief or whatever. But when you expect other people to do that or to have that same belief and kind of judge them for it, then that's, that's not great. So, but then like I learned about all these things, and then I finally realized that, okay, sex is very different for different people. And some people can just treat it as like a physical act that you get pleasure from, and that's completely okay. And that I also realized that my conception of sex changes as I am like, as I go through different seasons of life, and that's also okay, basically. As long as I'm honest to myself about it, and I'm honest with my, you know, my partners or whatever, then it's okay. What about you? I gotta hit her back with like, what about you?
Yeah, I feel the same way. Firstly, my mom watches this channel. Mama, I'm not having sex. Like, I don't do sex. I don't do those things. Like, she's the first person to comment. I saw your video. So, mom, like, at the end of sex, and I don't do that. So I also feel the same way. Like, I feel like, especially like the pleasure of women has always been something that's so stigmatized, and I feel like the idea I had of sex before was, okay, like I need to like be the source of pleasure for this person, and not necessarily like holding in mind my needs within that space, and how like that's equally, if not even more important for me to actually know that, hey, like this could actually be something that's also really pleasurable for you. It doesn't have to be like something that you have to kind of experience, and it's part of connecting with someone, but you don't necessarily feel connected because there's just so much more that you aren't getting from that experience. And I think that just allowed me to like be able to even just openly have conversations around that. And I feel like there's just so much stigma around like women even just having conversations about sex,
100%.
And it feels quite taboo for women to even like want sex and want lots of it. So I feel like that is something that has really shifted for me. So knowing that it's okay to actually be quite vocal about like, hey, this is what I want, this is how I like it, and having that sense of safety to be able to have those kinds of conversations. So I think over time my perception of sex has changed, and I think another significant part of it that yes, it's a way of connecting with someone, and yes, it's an important way of kind of experiencing a sense of closeness and intimacy, but equally so, like it also needs to be something like that's very pleasurable for me as well in the process. I think that's been a significant change for me. And I feel I had one more question for you, but I'm just like, you just shot me with that. I'm just like, whoa.
Sorry.
That question.
But I love that journey for you.
I think that's been like a huge thing for me. Also coming from like a very conservative family and country, that has been something that's quite important for me. I want to remember this question because it was an important one.
I'm scared now. I'm scared.
So, would you regard yourself as being a dominant person within the bedroom? Or the kitchen, or the kitchen, or whatever, like, or the car,
or the gym, whatever,
or the gym, or the restaurant, or anything else in between.
Good question. I think I enjoy being the person. How do you even say that? Like, the receiving end of the domination.
Okay. So
I don't know.
More of a submissive.
Yeah, I feel like it. I don't know. I kind of like to follow instructions.
Okay.
That's something about me.
Okay.
So I think that tells you.
That does. That's good to know.
And what about you? You know I'm not ending this video
without me answering that question.
Come on. Defrost.
I need to defrost. So with me, so I agree with you, right?
Okay.
Like I do enjoy like someone taking charge. Like I think I'm one of those people, like not even taking charge in the sense of do this, do that. Like just shock me, like woo.
Whoa,
like, okay, so we doing that now. We flipping. We doing. I love that. Like I think I really enjoy that.
Cool.
But then there's also moments where I just want to say like sit your ass down. Like what are you doing?
Okay.
So
she's got range.
I do. I do have range. I feel like it has its moments. Once I've defrosted, it's just like throw me around, but also I can put you in your place.
Yeah.
So
Get your girl can do both.
That's true. That's true. I mean, I don't do it. I do not do it.
No, nobody's doing anything.
No,
nobody's doing
well
anything.
behaved. Well
Yeah,
behaved.
we're just sitting here chatting.
Yeah, until my mom unwatches the video and then we on. Mira, thank you so
Thanks,
much
Mommy.
for sharing yourself in this space
Yes.
and for all the insightful information you gave us. Honestly, I feel like we need to have a lot more of these conversations and we need more people introducing us because they're like, you too, you guys have sex. So guys, join the club. This is the sex club.
This is, I love that. Yeah.
And so much more. So yeah, thank you so much for your
Thanks,
time,
Mommy.
and we look forward to having you again on the channel.
This is so fun, by the way.
Honestly, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I also enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
I love having these kinds of conversations. So thank you so much for your time, and guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, please give this video a thumbs up and comment in the comment section down below and let us know what you guys thought about the video. And don't forget to subscribe so you can see our gorgeous Mira when she returns again to the channel. And thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Happy defrosting.
Happy defrosting. Like melt, guys. Melt away.
Melt.
We need that water.
Cue water by Tyler.